So I think they should actually call this car Golf GTI Edition 50 Grand. Hello and welcome back to the VolksWizard channel, and welcome to a video that is long overdue because a few weeks ago Volkswagen revealed the Golf GTI Edition 50 at the Nürburgring 24-hour race, and after that there was a lot of media activity telling us a lot about the car, but in my opinion not everything. So over the last few weeks I've sifted through all the content, extracted the facts, and where there are still gaps, like is the extra 25 horsepower of the Edition 50 over the Club Sport purely from software, or is there more to it? I've put them to Volkswagen's head of chassis development and driving dynamics, Sebastian Willmann, who's filled in the gaps, and his answers will be at the end of this video. But before we get the ball rolling by seeing how the Edition 50 differs from the Club Sport that it's based on, let me just remind you guys how you can support the channel. Over the next few months, there should be loads of great GTI content as the Edition 50 hits the road. And then next year, we've got the GTI 50th anniversary celebration. So if you don't want to miss any of that, then please do subscribe. Another way is to give me the opportunity to pay more for your interesting Volkswagen Group vehicle. It's the 1st of September, very soon. And that means in the UK, we have a new registration number. So I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys will be thinking about part exchanging your cars for a new car from the 1st of September. But you can support the channel and potentially earn yourself some more cash by giving me the opportunity to pay more for your car. So if you've got an interesting VW Group vehicle in really good condition, average mileage or below, full service history, and ideally, but not essentially, completely unmodified, then get in touch with me directly by email, andrew@volkswizard.co.uk. Okay, let's start off then by seeing how the Edition 50 differs from the Club Sport that it's based on when it comes to cosmetics. So we'll start with the outside. As standard, you get a black roof, black mirror casings, you get a black rear VW badge, which is probably the one from the Golf R Black Edition, but thankfully you don't get a full black styling pack, so the red stripe on the grille is intact, and that's really important for any GTI, but particularly important for one that celebrates 50 years of the GTI. If you order the performance pack, which we'll talk about in detail later, you get a black Akrapovic exhaust, but it's silver inside the tips. If you don't have the performance pack, you still get black tips on the standard exhaust. Again, that's silver inside, but maybe that'll go black in time. You get GTI 50 on the standard Club Sport spoiler, whether it's performance pack or not. Weirdly, it doesn't seem to fit properly on one side. You also get GTI 50 on the inside of the mirror casings, which is going to be very close to the blind spot warning light if you have that on your car. Again, that's a very interesting place to put a sticker. Have you seen that on any other makes and models? I haven't, so, but if you have, let me know in the comments. Wheels, right, well, when the 8.5 GTI came out, we had the Queenstown wheel, which was a tribute to the Detroit wheel, which was the wheel on the Mark V Golf. That's a cool wheel on the GTI and GTI Club Sport, but with the Edition 50, they've decided to make it very red, which is, yeah, very Marmite. If you order the performance pack though, you get spared red wheels and you have completely black Volmanair. So these are lightweight forged wheels. Volkswagen say they're 3 kilograms lighter or 2 kilograms lighter. It just depends what they're comparing it to. Either way, you get GTI branded dynamic center caps, which stay the right way up wherever the wheel has stopped rotating. You get a decal on the side like you do with the Club Sport, but it's different in that it fades from black to Tornado red, and that will look good or bad depending on what color you go for. There are 5 colours: pure white, which is probably the free colour, moonstone grey, grenadilla black, and we also have 2 special colours. So tornado red, which hasn't been on a car since, he says, actually since the Mark VII, and we've got dark moss green. So this is a completely new colour. Volkswagen say it's a kind of British racing green, and the designers took inspiration from the use of green on the Mark I, which I can only assume was Larza green, because there isn't much else green that I associate with the Mark I, apart from the mould that's on lots of them when they've been left standing. Oak green is a little bit more brown, and that's a Mark II colour anyway. And if you're celebrating 50 years of the GTI, well, you want to take inspiration from the first one, which was the Mark I. If I was going to choose a colour, well, I'll tell you which one I'd go for at the end of the video. Right now, let's see how the Edition 50 varies inside. And the good news is it has got back seats. Now, if you watched my first video on Edition 50 following the lap record, you'd have seen that I noticed there was a big gap behind the front seats all the way to the bottom of the tailgate. Well, that's not because the car doesn't have back seats, it's because the guy who set the lap record, Benny Leuchter, had lowered the back seats to reduce the centre of gravity, which made it look like it had no back seats. But I did wonder because the red seat belts were clearly visible. We'll talk about those in a second. You've got GTI 50 on the key, which is only a little touch, but it shows they've gone to great lengths to make this car special. You've got GTI 50 on the steering wheel as well, though some of the images show the leather steering wheel not having any red stitching. And also there is an Alcantara steering wheel as well. Whether that's an option, whether or not you have the performance pack or it comes as part of the performance pack, I'm not completely sure about as yet. It would make sense it was available because it was on the Club Sport Standard and Club Sport S. But then again, not everybody wants one if it's a daily car because they just get kind of funny, go shiny very quickly unless you're really, really careful. So that still needs clarification. We have fully red seat belts. I'm a big fan of colour in seat belts. We're sometimes lucky to get a red edge. Fully red though, it's been a long time since we had that, and I think that goes back to the Mark III Golf GTI anniversary, but if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. Red pedals, this is not that clever really. So instead of redesigning the pedals to say 50 on them or something, they've just taken the standard stainless pedals and made the rubber section that sticks through the metal red instead of black. Yeah, I think a lot of people will be swapping those out. We have a unique seat trim. This is actually quite cool. So what we have is small and large tartan, and there's a contrast red stitch as well on the seat back and side. So a chunky stitch on there, looks really nice, much better than the standard seats. There's a big pixelated GTI logo as well. And there's an ever so subtle green stripe going through the tartan as well, which continues the green theme. We have sill protectors on a Golf, amazing. GTI branded sill protectors, though they are tiny silver slivers, but they're better than nothing. And we also have really nice floor mats, very similar to the ones in the Club Sport S and TCR. So nice thick carpet, chunky grey, black edging and red piping. Okay, now on to the big one, performance and dynamics. And during all the recent media activity, it's been drummed into us that the Edition 50 is available with a performance pack, and that performance pack was key to it setting the fastest Volkswagen lap record at the Nürburgring's Nordschleife, unlike the performance pack that's available on the Club Sport, which doesn't really influence the way that the car drives. Now, if you don't order an Edition 50 with the performance pack, you basically have a Golf GTI Club Sport with 25 extra horsepower and 20 Newton meters of torque, so 325 PS, 420 Newton meters respectively, and you have the cosmetic differences I've just listed. Now, even though this is still a far more appealing car than the damp squib of the Edition 45 that we had in 2021, an Edition 50 without the performance pack, in my opinion, is a wasted opportunity. Now, with or without the performance pack, both do 0 to 62 miles an hour in 5.5 seconds, making them the fastest GTIs in a straight line from the factory ever. However, if there was ever a time when 0 to 62 means very little, it's with this car, because the effort the chassis team has gone to make the performance pack equipped Edition 50 even faster through the corners, while not improving the 0 to 62 time 1 iota, is phenomenal. I don't know about you, but I can't remember the last time I launched a car in normal real world driving, but only this morning I got a kick from chucking my car into a corner, and I'm pretty sure the Edition 50 will provide a bigger kick in the curves than even the Club Sport S. A big statement, but I think it's now time for me to tell you what the performance pack actually gives you. So, as I mentioned earlier, the red Queenstowns are disposed of, thankfully, and you get black Warmenau wheels, so these are forged and they're super lightweight, and they're shod with Bridgestone Potenza race semi-slick tyres that have been specially tuned for the Edition 50, and they're actually a Volkswagen specific tyre, so they'll have a marking on that says these are VW specific, and the tyres actually save you 1.3 kilogram per corner, and the wheels I think save you 2 kilograms over the Queenstown per wheel, so that's 13 kilograms in unsprung weight saved. You also get the Akrapovic exhaust system, which is 11 kilograms lighter. So in total, that's 24 kilograms lighter than a non-performance pack car. And then we have the performance chassis, and this is what makes this performance pack so much more interesting than the one on the Club Sport, because it brings numerous changes to the front and rear axles that really massively improve the way this car goes around corners. I think it's the first time we've been able to have these kind of changes as an option on a Volkswagen, or definitely a Golf, so it's quite a big moment. So with the performance pack, your Edition 50 will sit 5mm lower than a non-performance pack car, and it comes with DCC, which is recalibrated specifically for the performance chassis. You have stiffer springs front and back. You have 2 degrees of negative front camber. That's up 50% compared to the non-performance pack car. And that's exactly the amount of negative camber, 2 degrees, that the Club Sport S had as well. They've achieved that through modifying the wheel carriers or knuckles. They call them one thing or the other, depending what day of the week it is. That's exactly what they did with the Club Sport S. They've also had to give you stiffer top mounts and sturdier wishbones, stiffer wishbone bushes as well, to support all that extra loading you'll get with the negative camber. We also have high performance pivot bearings on the front axle, which VW say offers a more direct steering response and higher cornering speeds. And at the back, there are even more tweaks. So the Edition 50 reintroduces a twin attachment track rod. Volkswagen say this is reminiscent of the one that was used on the Mark 7 Golf GTI. So there we have it, guys. VW admit, at least in this one area, that the Golf 7 GTI was superior. We also have new wheel carrier geometry for greater lateral stiffness and toe stability under load, particularly in fast direction changes. So I think that means they tweaked the bit where the wheel bearing sits on the back axle to make it stiffer, and they've also got double shear hub carriers, which increase the stiffness of the rear axle, so you get less flex under load, and that reduces understeer, which is the key to making a front-wheel drive car fast around the corners. As well as these mechanical changes, Volkswagen has also recalibrated the software of the electromechanical steering and the vehicle dynamics manager to suit the Edition 50's more aggressive hardware setup. It's worth now quickly mentioning the Golf R, because that is still a second quicker than the Edition 50, even with all those dynamic tweaks I've just listed. So some of you guys might be wondering what all the fuss is about, but if ever there was a time to say life is not a drag race, this is it, because the Edition 50 will whoop even a Golf R 20 years when the road becomes twisty. And that's proven by the Edition 50 being 6 seconds quicker than the Golf R 20 years, which was, until the Edition 50, the fastest production Volkswagen around the Nürburgring's Nordschleife, even with 8 horsepower more and on the same, or at least very similar, Bridgestone Potenza race tyres. The R20 years is a spectacular car. I've actually thought about buying one in the past, but because of its all-wheel drive, which might help it off the line, it's 9% heavier and actually only has 2.5% more power than the Edition 50. But it won't just be the in-gear acceleration where the Edition 50 crucifies the Golf R 20 years. Because it's lighter, that means the tyres, which are really crucial for setting a lap record, and the brakes will both last a lot longer. It's worth just quickly touching on how closely Bridgestone have worked with Volkswagen on the Edition 50 project. If you look at some of the photos from when the lap record was set, you'll see Bridgestone crew celebrating with the Volkswagen crew. And this is markedly different to what happened with the Club Sport S, where, no doubt related to the fact the Club Sport S project boss Carsten Schefstadt used to work for Porsche, they just stuck some Porsche-approved N-rated Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2s on that car. And they seem to work, but I think a lot more science has gone into the Edition 50, and I think it also represents how much effort has gone into the car as a whole, and how Volkswagen will be expecting to sell quite a few of them, probably with the performance pack as well, to recoup that investment. And the fact that you seem to get nearly all the performance of the Club Sport S, if not more, with none of the limitations. So you have back seats, you have 5 doors, you have a DSG gearbox. Yeah, I think if the price is right, we'll talk about that later, it should sell very well indeed. Right, now onto the question and answer session with Volkswagen's head of chassis development and driving dynamics, Sebastian Willmann. Now you might find some of Sebastian's answers have been incorporated into the bit you've heard already. If they're repeated here, it's because it's an important point. So let's start off then with the basics. Is the extra 25 horsepower over the Club Sport purely from changes to the engine management software? He says yes. So it's basically the same hardware, just different lines of code in the ECU. Is the ride height of Edition 50 the same whether the car has performance pack with DCC, passive dampers, i.e. it doesn't have the performance pack, or DCC as a standalone option without the performance pack? His answer is, with the performance pack, the ride height is 5mm lower in comparison to the current Club Sport. So that means that Club Sport with or without DCC is 5mm higher, and Edition 50 without performance pack is 5mm higher than ones with performance pack, which are 5mm lower, which makes sense because the performance pack includes the performance chassis, and that includes different springs. He also says DCC is included with the performance pack, which I'm pretty sure means that the standard car doesn't have DCC, which I think contrasts with what PistonHead said in their review. Onto the tyres. With the Club Sport S, the Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tyres were very poor in heavy rain, and they weren't great in the winter. I asked Sebastian if the Potenza race tyres were better at dealing with poor weather, such as standing water, than the Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2s. And he says the wet performance of the Bridgestone Potenza race is excellent. The new tyres have a sharper steering response and more dry and wet grip. It's the high-end compound, and tyres' slip stiffness is tailor-made for the GTI's weight distribution. The sidewall marking, I think a plus icon, shows they are dedicated Volkswagen tyres. I didn't know that. I asked, are you going to allow people to spec a Performance Pack Edition 50 where you've gone to so much effort saving a lot of weight with a sunroof where you had a lot of weight in the wrong place? He says yes. I asked, are you going to have another attempt at the lap record in more favourable conditions? Because when they set the Volkswagen production car lap record, it was a little bit damp. Benny Loiter had a couple of little moments on the track. So there was potential to be faster and to be actually faster than the Honda Civic Type R, I think, which holds the current record. He says another attempt is not planned for now. That doesn't mean no, though. There were some concerns that ride quality might be poor, and that's particularly of concern here in the UK. The Club Sport S in Comfort or Ring mode was just about sufficiently compliant for our broken British B roads. I've asked Sebastian how he would rate the Edition 50 with the Performance Pack's ride quality in its softest setting. He says the comfort mode of the performance package is comparable to the Nürburgring mode of the current Club Sport. Because we've got 15-stage DCC, there are 3 more softer steps in the individual mode as well. He says the Nürburgring mode in the performance pack is adjusted for the new road surface of the Green Hell. I think since the Club Sport S set the lap record in 2016, the Nürburgring's Nordschleife has been resurfaced and it's a lot smoother, and therefore you can go faster now in a stiffer car. You don't need the compliance of the Club Sport S. We talk about this a bit more later on. Does the Edition 50 have a ring mode, and is this restricted to performance pack cars or cars with DCC? He says Edition 50 and Edition 50 with performance pack both have a Nürburgring mode. So if you've got an Edition 50, you will get a Nürburgring mode. But if you haven't got DCC, whether that's through performance pack or a standalone option, you won't really have a ring mode. Does the ring mode on dynamic chassis control cars set the dampers into a compliant setting? Sebastian says yes. It's still a bit softer than the sport mode, but here is an important change. Due to the better surface of the Green Hell, the Nordschleife, a bit higher damping control was necessary for the new ring mode, i.e. they made it stiffer. But as part of the feedback from UK journalists, we saved the good attributes of the old ring mode and applied it to the comfort mode to make it work impressively on the UK's demanding roads. So if you want a compliant feeling car, don't use the ring mode on the Edition 50, just use comfort mode. And that makes a lot of sense because it was always a bit weird how the ring mode on the Club Sport S was as compliant as the comfort mode. Now onto the brakes. I asked Sebastian if the brakes are the same as those on the Club Sport, so 357mm disc, 2 piston calipers, and do they have a revised pad compound? Sebastian says the Edition 50 brakes are the same performance brake as those on the current Club Sport, so no changes there at all. And that makes sense because the Nordschleife is not that heavy on brakes. So the Club Sport S had 3 40mm discs and 1 piston calipers, and it was perfectly fine for 2 laps before they were scrap. I asked if Carsten Schebstadt had any input into the Edition 50's dynamics. I asked that because Carsten was at the Nürburgring in July or August last year for a Volkswagen event, and he's officially retired, so I wondered if they'd employed him as a consultant. Sebastian says Carsten was the brain behind the famous GTI Club Sport S. Furthermore, the Volkswagen chassis development team gained a lot of experience with that project. In recent years, some of the former Bugatti chassis engineers joined the Volkswagen chassis development team and worked together with the group of the dynamics team that worked on the Mark 7 Club Sport S. Florian Umbach is the new brain behind driving dynamics. He worked 25 years in Volkswagen Group, undertaking many vehicle dynamics projects together with Carsten. So to me, that sounds like Carsten's not involved, but there's no better person than Florian Umbach to take over his role and transfer everything learned from Carsten to Volkswagens of the future. What would you say is the most important factor in the Edition 50's much faster Nordschleife lap time compared to the Club Sport S? I think over the same distance, it was 6 seconds quicker than the Club Sport S, which, let's face it, is pretty impressive with back seats, with 5 doors, with DSG. Sebastian says the key lies in the improved drivability, handling balance and grip level. The car rotates nicely in the corner and delivers consistent front end grip through the corner. So I think that means it's working its back axle as hard as it's working its front axle, which is a tricky trick to pull off on a front wheel drive car. The Edition 50 gives the driver a high confidence feeling, which makes it easy to drive even at the limits. In comparison to the legendary Club Sport S, the Edition 50 has even more stability and body control, especially in corners like the fast Stefan Bellof S on the Nordschleife. To achieve this, we dialed in more negative camber. We mentioned that already, 2 degrees, and they used an aluminium knuckle and made the rear axle more responsive with reduced understeer. Stiffer rear toe link connection to the rear upright was part of that. The springs give 20% higher ride frequencies, less body roll, and together with a smoothly calibration of the DCC dampers, you get a more consistent grip level and quicker turn-in. The dampers can be adjusted in a wide range. The new setup is working really well with the eDiff, so that's the VAQ electronic front differential. A more sporty bushing in the lower front control arm, so in the front wishbones, gives reduced understeer under longitudinal forces and enables a clean and efficient acceleration out of the turn. That's a mod a lot of you guys have done to your car, and for good reason. Braking is more stable with a more precise front suspension, so if you've got less flex in all the rubber, then the car doesn't vary its line so much under braking. The good mechanical balance allowed us to recalibrate the ESC application with the result that you don't have any interventions even under sporty driving in dry conditions. He doesn't say this, but in the wet that might be a different story. And for a bit of fun, I ask him which is faster, dark moss green or tornado red. Sebastian says, to be honest, as I saw the Edition 50 for the first time in tornado red, I was absolutely enthusiastic about that colour. Our designer Andy Mint mentioned that they also plan a green for the GTI, and I wasn't so sure, but as I watched the Edition 50 at the Nürburgring for the first time in dark moss green, it beats everything. Okay, now let's talk about the thorny subject of pricing. Now, I've tried to stick to the facts so far in this video, but when it comes to pricing, I have to speculate because no information has been released yet. So let's start off then with the price of the Club Sport. Currently in the UK, it's £43,215. I don't think Volkswagen will charge an awful lot more for the Edition 50 because it's not that different a car. The main spec change is that you get the 19-inch wheels, which are worth probably about £1,000. So worst case scenario, it's going to be £44,950. But you'll want the performance pack on top of that, and I reckon that's going to be £4,000. So that takes us up to £49,000, and a couple of options. Dark moss green could be a premium colour and be over £1,000, and you're over £50,000. So I think they should actually call this car Golf GTI Edition 50,000. But I remember when the Edition 40 came out in 2016, I was excited then as I am about this car now, and supply exceeded demand to the point where Avis in Germany actually had them on their rental fleets, and those cars actually had quite a nice spec as well. And right now, if you look at Drive the Deal, you can get 16% off a Club Sport. So if that applies to the Edition 50 when it's launched, or maybe a few months after launch, then I could seriously be tempted. And the plus side of this is that unlike the Club Sport S, supply is unlikely to be limited, and people like you and I can go and buy one and enjoy one and run it as a daily as well, because it doesn't have the limitations of a Club Sport S, and there'll be no overs market as well, which took the car away from enthusiasts into the hands of speculators. Just don't forget to tick that performance pack box, because that is so important when it comes to the identity of the Edition 50. And when it comes to colours, for me, there can only be one choice: dark moss green. Big thanks to Sebastian Willmann, Volkswagen Press Office UK and Germany, and to you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you for the next one very soon.